Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and in today's episode, we've got it's fire, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to look at an article that says that South Africa is on the brink of collapse. We're also going to look at what the mainstream media is up to because they have one hell of a hatred towards Cape Forum already. And we're also going to be talking with panelists later on tonight at 8 p.m. I'm joined by Corné Mulder from Freedom Front Plus, Phil Craig from Cape Independence Advocacy Group, and Hendrik from Cape Forum. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. You do not want to miss it.
Outfit in a country that is immune. Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to being sued. Come on. In February, the families of
I thought you guys might want to have a bit of a laugh as we started today's show. That was Biden, ladies and gentlemen. Look, people in his defense, and I'm not defending him here, but some people said, like, he meant to say prosecution, man, not prostitution. All right, maybe. I mean, he did say, sued or whatever. That's fine. But still, the man can't put sentences together, people. This is a problem. This is a problem, this is the guy that has the keys to the nukes. This is him. Anyway, I thought some of you might have a little bit of a laugh at that. I mean, just for interest. Now I can't even talk. I'm pulling a Biden. Just for interest sake, right? Let's have a listen to that again one more. Just one more time.
Outfit in a country that is immune. Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to being sued.
You see, imagine the tobacco industry had been immune to prostitution. And then he says to being sued, prosecution is what he meant to say. Maybe. This guy says this stuff and nothing happens. But anyway, look, there's a lot to get through in this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hello, Zach. Thank you so much for tuning in. Kid Fury is also here, ladies and gentlemen. Got an exciting show up ahead for you guys. I'm having 3 guests later on at 8 p.m. We're going to have Hendrik from Cape Forum. We're going to have Corné Mulder from Freedom Front Plus, and we're going to have Phil Craig from Cape Independence Advocacy Group. So it's a mouthful to say. Ladies and gentlemen, so please, if you want more information, their links are in the description on YouTube. Unfortunately, not if you're watching, but if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, if you're watching on those platforms, do comment. I will see it. And share and like the video and all that shebang. Let's not forget that Cyril Ramasaurus also is asking you to hit that like button. So thank you, Cyril. But ladies and gentlemen, I got so much to get through, and I'm going to go on a bit of a rant later, so you're going to stick around for that. But I got a few things to share with you guys. Firstly, a very important announcement. I'm going to try and do this in my best cinematic trailer voice. I may not be able to keep up with the pace of this video, but bear with me. Dear South Africa invites you to have your say. 4 days left to comment. Health Act amendment by government comments close 16th of April 2022. Participate and share. Thank you for being democratically engaged, active, and a responsible citizen. I didn't see what the last part was, but yeah. I tried my best, okay? I was going on very quickly. But in all seriousness, I'm pulling a Biden again. In all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, do go and comment on the Health Act. Please comment. Please comment. And it's very important. There's only 4 days left, and some interesting developments happen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to have Rob back onto the show because apparently the ANC has been deleting emails that have been submitted. Okay, so this is what I want to clarify with Rob, okay, from DRSA. I want to find out from him if he's talking about emails that were sent from DRSA or emails that were sent through the government website or maybe other platforms besides DRSA. But again, this is why DRSA was saying it's so important to use their platform because they have a copy of the email. So even if ANC wants to try and delete some of these emails and claim, oh, it's not really 200,000 comments, it's more like 50,000 comments, they can't do that because DRSA is going to have the receipts. So I'm going to have Rob on the show tomorrow. I'll probably release the interview a little bit later in the day because it's going to be pre-recorded, but I will release it tomorrow, and we'll see what Rob has to say and DRSA has to say about the ANC deleting those emails. We'll get clarification on that, and I've got what seems like some very angry. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you're angry. Why is the biggest pro-independence group with 825,000 mandates not on the panel? You're talking about Cape Exit. Because I can only have up to 3 other guests before the stream that goes a bit wobbly. I mean, I can't have more than, I could have 4, but okay. Here's the real reason. The original plan was to have certain individuals on the show. Let me remember. It was supposed to be Cape Independence Advocacy Group, so it was going to be Phil Craig. It was going to be Corney Mulder from Freedom from Plus. It was going to be Brett Herron from Good. It was going to be, I forgot this, Cameron Douglas from ANC. And it was going to be, there was someone else, or maybe it was just them. I think it was just them. Oh no, I can't remember. I think there might have been someone else. Was there someone else? Anyway, doesn't matter. When I reached out to these people, because we wanted to have a really frank and honest discussion about the failure of ANC and the collapse of the state and what these parties are bringing to the table, if anything at all, and their opinion on Cape independence, as well as, pushing back a bit and being like, well, what do you expect? I mean, you guys might say you don't like Cape independence, but I mean, what are you guys doing to solve the problem? You're doing nothing. So anyway, it was going to be a nice, lively discussion. No malice, no insults thrown or anything like that. We just wanted to have a nice, honest discussion about it. And unfortunately, some of the people never replied to me, which, to be honest, some of the people I invited I wasn't too keen on having on the show anyway. So last moment, which literally yesterday, I decided, you know what, I was sent through, which I'm going to share with you guys in a moment, I was sent through these horrible articles about Cape Forum, and I thought, you know what, let's keep the show going, let's keep the panel thing going, we'll change the topic slightly, we'll have like an open discussion about Cape independence, and I'll invite Heinrich on from Cape Forum as well to give a bit of input, and also to, I don't think Cape Forum is pro-Cape independence, so it is going to be interesting to have someone who, I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe he is pro Cape independence. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to have someone who's not on the show talking about Cape Forum, making, if there is a difference. I don't know. These are questions I'm going to ask tonight to Heinrich. But yeah. And so to answer your question about Cape Exit, look, I have had, for the life of me, I cannot remember his name right now, but I have had the CEO of Cape Exit on my show. Before anybody starts trying to, say that I'm being unfair or whatever. I have had him on the show. I do plan on having him again. I do plan on more Cape Independence content. But I've already got my Des Palm. Thank you, Alex. Yes, Des Palm. I do plan on having. I want to have their spokesperson on, to be honest. He seems like a nice guy. But I've also had the ULA people on, the CEO. I've had all these people on, guys. Just because they're not on tonight doesn't mean anything. And you know what? It's kind of questions like that that are interesting to me. Blue Freedom says, just sitting there hopelessly, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, it is, but I'm sure it will grow. Cape Exit is currently doing a 4-part interview with Morning Shot. Yeah, well, Morning Shot has a lot more subscribers than I do, so that's going to benefit them heavily. I mean, if you ask me, it's far more beneficial for Cape Exit to be on Morning Shot's channel than it is to be on mine. So I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. But yeah, do go check it out, by the way. I have watched the first 2, I think 2 are out now. Very interesting stuff, especially the last one about the economy and certain policies and stuff like that, like the way they want to actually do away with VAT. Yeah. Imagine that, guys. A VAT-free Western Cape. Makes you think, doesn't it? So Roz Rose says, well, thank you for watching, by the way. Roz Rose says United Liberty Alliance is the biggest, I think, and the only one that has followed the international process. The rest are still at the starting blocks. Something that was mentioned in the Cape Exit interview as well with Morning Shot is you guys must remember that, and I think it was the guy on Morning Shot's interview that said this. They all had a meeting. Every organization. You're talking about the Cape Independence Party, Cape Exit, ULA. Everyone that's advocating for Cape Independence had a meeting, and they all decided that they need to work together, and that each organization is beneficial in their own right. So, for example, Cape Independence Advocacy Group are a pressure group. So they do a lot of like research, and they also are like the marketing side of things, if you can put it that way. All right. Then Cape Exit is like this guy was saying, is the people who are trying to figure out the policy side of things. What's going to happen to get the referendum? Once we get the referendum, what happens after that? If it's voted in yes, and all the whole process and election, and what a Western Cape would look like on its own, and all the different policies and all that stuff. So really go watch Morning Shot's interview with this guy. It's really interesting. So there's that. Cape Exit does that. They have all their policies on their website ready to go. They can literally hand it over to a government or whoever is going to run the Western Cape and be like, boom, these are the policies that we think are best for running the Western Cape. And then, you've got other guys like, obviously, the Cape Independence Party, which is the party. It's a party, which is in government. I also need to get Jack Miller on the show because apparently they've recounted at the IEC, and they've gotten another seat in Parliament. So that's big news that nobody is talking about. And there might be even more seats. So I need to get Jack Miller on the show and talk to him about that. And then you've got, who else? Help me out, guys. Who else? ULA doing the international thing. So everybody is working together, but has different, is busy with different parts of the machine, and it's through working together that hopefully they'll achieve their goal. And I think that's very important to understand. So essentially, we should support all of them. Which is why I say, like, I'm not biased to any other group. I think they all do hard work in their own right. And whether you want to support ULA, you want to support Cape Exit, by all means do so. And we're going to talk about that tonight. You know, how close are we to Cape independence? And it's going to be interesting having someone from the Freedom Front Plus on the show, who I know the Freedom Front Plus have said that they are for Cape independence, but it's going to be interesting to ask a few questions. And guys, I want you to stick around because you are invited tonight to ask as many questions as you want to Phil Craig, to Cornet, to Hendrik. Please, I highly encourage it. It's one of the reasons why we're doing it. And you know what? If you guys want us to do another, and I probably will do it anyway at some point, but I do want to have another panel night where I do have Cape Exit, Cape Independence Party, Cape Independence Advocacy Group, ULA, all of them on the show at once. Probably after the march, which, by the way, there is a link to in the description where you can find out more information about the march. Let me just have a look at some. Oh yeah, the teal system. That was it. Thank you. JC McFarlane, good to see you here. That's in right wing. Dion Van Wyk. Dion Van Wyk, thank you so much for tuning in. I haven't seen you on the show before. That's a question I will definitely hold for tonight. So yeah. Yep, all groups are participating, and I'm going to be there, by the way, and I'm going to stream it, just so you know. So ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye on this channel for that stream. Probably going to set it up next week, and please share. The reason why I'm streaming it is not just for people who can't make it in South Africa, but also for the world to see what it was all about. So yeah. Can we not argue about? I'm not arguing about anyone. I'm just saying that we all work together. Like that's all I'm saying. And I'm not part. Like, let me say this, even though I think some of the haters won't believe me. I'm not part of any of the groups. I support all of them, and I'm not associated, or no one pays me from any of these groups. No one pays me to talk about them or anything like that. So, yeah. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. And Worldview channel is a great channel. So, Blue Freedom, thank you for letting us know that. And I encourage people, whether you're watching me now or you watch afterwards, go to Worldview channel and watch. You know, by all means, absolutely do that. So, very quickly, because this is kind of in line with what we're talking about now. I'm really disgusted with some of the stuff that's going on. But before I get into that, I just want to another bit of humor, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe I saw this. White Easter eggs banned for being racist. This is a headline, ladies and gentlemen. And before anyone tells me that this is not real or that it wasn't recent, if you zoom in to the date, which I know is pixelated at the moment, but that says April 10th, 2022. Tuesday, April 12th, April 10, 2022, on sale until Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. So this is recent. This is now. It could have been an April Fool's, but I doubt it. With the way the world is going these days, yeah. I mean, even the newspaper saying the world's gone mad. So, this is critical race theory, ladies and gentlemen, at its finest. How's that? What do you guys think of that? Let me know in the comment section. It's crazy stuff. But yeah, anyway, what I wanted. See you guys at 8 for the. By all means, if you guys want to come back later at 8, that is absolutely okay with me. So yeah, male Jody Taylor, the male Jody Taylor. I will mark your question and I will ask that to Heinrich tonight when he joins. So yeah. If it was true, it would have happened here. Probably. It's okay, white chocolate is terrible. All right, so apparently you guys agree. Anyway, so some of the things about Cape Independence, well, not Cape Independence. For those of you who may not know, and this is one of the reasons why I got Heinrich on the show tonight, he's the leader, or I don't know, CEO, whatever you want to call it, of Cape Forum. And Cape Forum was announced this past week, and oh my word. I'm going to ask him tonight, JC. I'll mark your question as well. Insane when the Cape Forum announced itself. I mean, the amount of headlines that came out from okay, this is a different headline, sorry guys. We will talk about this in a moment, but the amount of headlines that came out in criticism of this, okay? So this is News 24, one news outlet, okay? Peter Dutoit, Panelist Politics, AfriForum's project for separate development streams ahead, okay? That's what Peter Dutoit says. I cannot read all of it because I don't support this cock. And then same news outlet, Sean Jacobs, okay, says the Cape Forum and the turn to the right in South Africa, okay. And then it says a whole lot of stuff about this, about how, I mean, he says here in the one paragraph we can read, the rise of groups like Cape Forum and Operation Dudula are part of a concerning trend in South African politics, which is becoming partialized by identity politics, where parties emerge to cater to niche identities based on racial and ethnic identities, writes Sean Jacobs. First of all, I don't know if Cape Forum is a party. People are saying it's a party. I don't think it's a party. But I'm going to ask Heinrich about that tonight. I don't think Cape Forum is a party, as far as I understand. So they go on. Christy, what's this lady's name again? Christy van der Westhuizen. Christy van der Westhuizen. Okay. Formation of the Cape Forum, a blast from our apartheid past. What? What? I mean, this has to be clickbait, right? Like this just has to be an outlandish headline to get people to click on it. But again, I can't read all of it because they want you to pay, because, you know. And I mean, the woke ideology coming out of this woman, just in this first paragraph. Nationalism has paid off for successive ruling groups, notably the Afrikaner nationalists and currently the African nationalists. Sorry. Culture was central to the Afrikaner nationalism and AfriForum's politics, and the formation of the Cape Forum can be seen as neo-nationalist remnants of this. Wow. Wow. I mean, News 24. Talk about a smear campaign. And do you think it stops there? No, it doesn't. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there's another one. And it says, Friday briefing, South Africa's experiment with nationalism. Then they have a picture of Operation Dudula and Cape Forum. First of all, let me just say, Operation Dudula and Cape Forum are nothing like each other, okay? They are completely different things. Like, you're talking, I don't even know how these people can even make a comparison. Like, I really don't. because Operation Dudula is like a citizen movement type of thing. It's citizens taking things into their own hands, and it's getting dangerous, and it's spreading quite dangerous rhetoric, even though to some extent I understand where it's coming from, because the state is failing and, you know, there's illegal immigrants and stuff like that. I get it, but that is failures of the ANC, and now people have to take matters into their own hands. It's not right, but at the same time, people don't want another July riot incident or whatever. So, but again, it's a soldier. I don't know what, I don't know the leader of this Operation Dudula. If he's a soldier, he's not. He wears soldier gear. I think he's a dangerous man. While I understand why he's doing what he's doing, I think he's a dangerous man. I think he can be a dangerous man. Whereas Cape Forum is like an it's, oh my god, it's an organization that is trying to help people in the Western Cape. And for mainstream media to even do this, and I mean this article is a whole lot of like discussion, and then at the end they're like telling you to read those 3 articles that I just showed you that are behind a paywall. So just to make sure that people see these articles, they made another article telling people to go read the other articles. So, yeah. I just want to address this comment very quickly. Roscoe, I will, and I am marking your question to make sure that I ask Heinrich later. Guys, very, very, very quickly. All right, I don't have to go through this article to know that these journalists and journos are absolutely insane. That they don't know what they're talking about. Okay. Because earlier, Heinrich, after announcing his involvement with Cape Forum, he was on Cape Talk, and he said a few things. And I'm not going to listen to the interview. You guys can Google if you want to listen to the whole interview. But he states, this is not a colored AfriForum. There's this idea that I'm now colluding with AfriForum to abuse colored people. He's very offended by this, by the way. And there's people telling him, like, they're making assumptions, right? And, like, I mean, it's very upsetting, to be honest. Like, the Cape Forum is being established to empower Western Cape communities in particular with regards to those state functions where the state is lacking and not performing as it should be. Okay? That's what Heinrich said. Heinrich also said, we are being established to serve all communities, but we are mindful of the fact that the colored communities are the majority in the Western Cape, and that is the truth. That is the absolute truth. The majority in the Western Cape are colored. And the colored people of South Africa, of the Western Cape included, have been neglected. In both the apartheid times and now, they are treated as second-class citizens. Not, in some cases, not even. With gangsterism rampant in the Cape, colored townships. I've been to some of these places. I've seen how some of these places how some of these people live, and it is appalling. It is wrong, and for too long, I think the colored people have been neglected in South Africa. And you know what? I dare say it that if Cape independence happened, they would be the majority in a country. You can't argue with the facts. 51% of Western Cape are colored. They are the majority in what would be the Western Cape country. Fact. No arguments. And for the mainstream media to attack a colored person because he decided to be part of Cape Forum, because he decided to be one of the people in South Africa who stood up for a community that has severely been neglected by the ANC and previous governments before that. For the mainstream media to attack him in the way that they have, to try and smear him, to say that, I mean, to say these things about him is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm going to have Hendrik on the show later on tonight. He's going to stay with me. He's going to chat to me. He's going to be part of the other guys as well. We're going to chat about a few things, but keep your questions coming in. If you got questions, I will ask them to the guests tonight. We're going to talk about the possibility of independence. Is it still something that is growing? Is it possible? We're going to talk about where Cape Forum stands on Cape independence. And I'm going to speak to him about some of the stuff that's being said about Cape Forum, because I think it's absolutely disgusting. And again, it is the mainstream media who are frankly scared. They're just scared. And it's crazy to me that they don't support this. This is an organization that wants to stand up for civilians, that wants to help civilians that desperately need the help. And you have mainstream media saying, oh, how dare you? Well, where else are they supposed to look? They can't look at the ANC. And the DA has its own problems. I mean, what do you expect people to do? At least there's someone who can put boots on the ground and make something and do something about it. I'm going to just look at some of the comments that are coming through. Sebi Plays, interesting name, says, how does Ronaldo House have 70 viewers scratching his dog right now? His dog is cute, man. I don't know. I've actually, I've had Ronaldo on the show. I actually need to get him back. But yeah, anybody who wants to can go on his live stream and say Joe says hi. I'll probably be streaming when he's streaming. But yeah. Zach saying something probably very true. If the media stopped lying, they'd be broke. Probably. Deborah Oliver saying no. Probably to me saying having Ronaldo. You don't have to watch the episode. Hello, Deborah. How are you? Oh man, it's good to see some familiar faces once again. Ladies, I'm sorry that I ranted like that, but I mean, I get really pissed off when mainstream media misleads people this way. Just do proper journalism, man. I mean, if there's like some kind of real issue with Hendrik, like he stole money or he's part of corruption charges, let us know about that. And I don't think he is. As far as I know, he's a journalist and he's a TV personality. Like, I'm sure his record is clean. Like, I'm just saying, like, if there's a scandal, then write about that scandal. Don't try and smear the guy. This is the problem. Like, mainstream media now is just like a smear campaign. And the crazy thing is, all those headlines were from the same news publication. Absolutely insane. And you want to wonder why places like Cape Forum and these kind of organizations and Cape Independence, the ideas are growing. I'll tell you why, ladies and gentlemen. The answer is quite simple. It's because South Africa, Business Tech reporting this, parts of South Africa have now collapsed, says expert. Okay. Now, there's a lot of mention of immigration here. Like the problems that we have with immigrant nationals are a reflection of the problems we have as a country. There is no way that immigrants can be the source of unemployment and the source of crime in South Africa. This is true, and not true at the same time. Look, the problem is border control. That's all it is. problem is border control, illegal immigrants coming in. They do shady stuff. I mean, I had Herman Mashaba on the show. He spoke about this, and that's why Action SA has a strict policy against illegal immigrants, right? Not xenophobic to think that. Every country has rules against illegal immigrants. The difference in South Africa is that South Africa can't uphold those rules and wants to punish law-abiding immigrants by sending them back to their country, even though they came in legally and they abided by the rules and they did everything right, which doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, so that chew on that for a while. And then it goes on to say that the government has collapsed in a number of areas across the country, and we are seeing inner cities collapse and degenerate. They have not picked up waste in Johannesburg city centre for a number of years, so you can't blame migrants for that. Those are reflections of the problems we have in government. And this is why this article is important, because it's actually like, wow, it's actually saying the truth. You can't blame foreigners about that. It's a reflection on the government. So there's a number of factors that are responsible for the country nearing a failed state, and the crisis, with a crisis in the ruling ANC being a key factor. It's not a problem that South Africans have caused themselves. It is a problem that has been caused by the ruling party. So in other words, South Africa is falling apart, ladies and gentlemen. And mainstream media is kind of talking about it. I don't know how many people read that article or saw that article, but yeah, it is true. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, Big Daddy Liberty didn't have a show last night. He hasn't had a show since Sunday because he's been stuck. He might have a show tonight, but he's been stuck in KwaZulu-Natal with no power and no water. I messaged him last night to see if he was okay, and he told me that. And it's just falling apart everywhere. And then you wonder why organizations like AfriForum, Cape Forum, the Cape Independence Movement, that's not an organization, but it's a movement. These kinds of movements and organizations, they form is because people are full of the ANC. And it's time for mainstream media to stop siding with the ANC. I know you guys are paid by them, but at some point you gotta stop drinking the Kool-Aid and be like, yo, this shit is messed up. At some point, you gotta just wake up. At some point, you gotta just be like, we can't defend this guy. And like, Biden is a good example. Americans are turning on Biden. There's been a mainstream media as of recently has been switching its gears on Biden, because there comes a point where you just can't defend the guy anymore. And eventually it's going to happen in South Africa. And let me tell you guys, mainstream media guys, journalists, that ship has sailed like a long time ago. It's time to wake up, smell the coffee, and switch on the electricity with your, generator, because there is no electricity, and report and do real journalism. I mean, I'm a comedian in Cape Town, and I have to say these things. It's crazy. This, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat or in the comment section if you're watching on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. I will see it on my side. Just checking the comment section. Dino is in the house. I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. How are you? Zach asking, you guys got load shedding again? Yes, it started yesterday, and now it was. So here's how it started, right? So it started on Monday, yesterday, and then it was suspended today, but then came back this afternoon. And ESCOM literally said this. ESCOM was like, put out a warning yesterday and said, like, they're under severe constraints or whatever, blah, blah. And like 2-3 hours later, they're like, boom, stage 2 load shedding. And then they're like, cool, it's going to continue indefinitely. And then they suspended it. And then they suspended it with a warning saying, like, yeah, we're suspending it, but it could come back. It's probably going to come back. It might come back. And then it came back. And now they said, oh, we're only going to have load shedding until Wednesday morning. Then we got a message like before I started streaming, like an hour before I started streaming, that load shedding is going to be extended until Friday morning. So, in case you guys didn't know that, by the way, load shedding is extended until Friday morning. So, yeah. So Carl J is asking me to ask the panel at 8 o'clock. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, 20 minutes and my panelists will be joining me. I'll be having Corne Mulder from Freedom from Plus. I'll be having Heinrich from Cape Forum, and I'll be having Phil Craig from Cape Independence Advocacy Group. We'll be chatting about the upcoming march, Freedom March, on the 27th of April, Freedom Day. It's a march for Cape Independence. It's not a protest, it's a march. It's a very big difference. And by the way, it's a great, Joel, if you're in Cape Town, you gotta come. Just for the vibe. Like, seriously, just for the vibe. It's a lot of fun. And we'll be chatting to them about other things. You guys are more than welcome to ask questions. I will be passing on your questions to the panel. But yes. Sorry, I didn't continue reading that. Please ask the panel if they support devolution of power or outright Western Cape independence. There is a big difference between the two. You are correct, Carl. There is a big difference between the two. And I can tell you right now that Cape Independence Advocacy Group, I could be wrong about this, but I do believe that they are in support of complete independence. I cannot speak for Freedom Front Plus or Cape Forum, but I will ask them that. So I'm going to mark your question and make sure it is sent. I've already, like, guys, I've been marking questions down. I've got questions from Carl J. I've got questions from Roscoe, from Dion Van Wyk, from JC McFarlane, the male Jody Taylor. So for 5 questions are lined up for my guest tonight. So please keep the questions coming in. When is that? When is what? The March, 27th of April. My discussion with my panelists is happening at 8 o'clock in about just over 17 minutes. I wonder when insurance companies will stop paying for white appliances that get screwed due to blackouts. I'm not sure what you mean by white appliances, but is that a thing? I don't know. Cool. I thought I was going to be longer with that conversation and my rant, but I think I said everything I need to say. I think, like, I've met a few people in the past week talking about Cape Independence, and I've noticed that the mainstream media is really good at conveying a different message about Cape Independence. So for those of you who are still skeptical, still on the fence, just come to the march. You don't even have to wear the shirt. You don't have to wave a flag. You can just see it. You can be part of it. You can march with us. You can even march on the other side of the road. Doesn't matter. All right, but just be part of it. Listen to what the people are saying. Watch some of the videos I've done on my channel about Cape Independence. Interviewing Phil Craig and Cape Exit and Cape Independence Party and ULA. All these guys. Watch them. And then decide. Get the facts for yourself. Don't listen to the mainstream media. The mainstream media I don't know why, but they're scared of Cape independence. That's just the truth. They are scared. I mean, follow the money, but they're scared. They're scared. It's an old expression. Okay. The male Jody Taylor says, what education model is envisaged in the Cape? That's a question I'm going to have to ask Cape Exit, because they are the ones that are busy with that kind of stuff. And I would be lying if I tried to answer that question. I think at the moment the focus is just getting the momentum going, just getting the idea into people's heads, into people's minds, and trying to tell people that this has nothing to do with race. This has nothing to do with ethnic cleansing or separation or apartheid or anything like that. This is about people who are hurtful, who have never voted for who haven't voted for the ANC in a very long time, who don't want to vote for the ANC, probably never will, and are seeing the writing on the wall with other provinces falling apart and are saying like, hey, we don't want to go in that direction, so let's pull away. I mean, guys, remember, Cape Town now has its own stock market, for those of you who don't know. Again, something the media doesn't want to talk about. I think there was like 2 articles on the story, right? Cape Town has its own stock market, okay? I'm hearing whispers that Cape Town or Western Cape wants to have its own taxing system or pull away from something like that. I'm going to ask Cape Forum about that now. There is talk about, obviously now, the mayor of Cape Town starting to get off the grid, which is why Cape Town, while the rest of South Africa has stage 2, we have stage 1. So all these things are happening, which will lead, I mean, you could argue that DA is pushing for federalism. Federalism, I personally think that's DA trying to play safe, trying to find like a middle ground, you know, because for some reason, if you talk about federalism, everybody's okay with that. The moment you say secession, no, even though federalism and secession are like a fence away from each other, like literally, it's not that big of a difference. The one is part of a country, the one's not. Like, this has happened before in history. And again, watch that Cape Exit interview. People like to say, oh, think of an example of secession that happened peacefully. Czechoslovakia. The Republic of Czech and Slovakia now separated, and they are amicable. They talk, they trade, they do everything together. They both grew very strong in their own right. Now, of course, I'm not saying that it might be exactly the same. We hope that it's going to be exactly the same. Nobody wants violence. But again, that's an example of secession that happened without violence. And if it can go that way, awesome. But of course, ANC probably won't let that happen. Let's see here. Robert King in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Robert King is a huge advocate for Cape independence. The simplest explanation of what education policy would be is whatever the Western Cape voters decide. Cape Exit wants devolution to the regions of the Cape, so education policy may be decentralized. This is very true. That's something else that Cape Exit is advocating for when Western Cape is independent, is that the communities take care of each other. It's like a federalist system, basically. It's called something else, though. But it's similar to a federal system where every community, every municipality is, that's a better word, every municipality is in charge of their area. So the people elect who governs the municipality or is in control of that municipality. The people elect that person must make sure that shit gets done. And there's budgets and stuff like that for universities, for schools, for all this stuff. So again, look, I'm paraphrasing heavily and probably not explaining it as good as the Cape Exit guys would. So please go watch that Ramon. Hey, Des is here. Hello, Des. Thank you for tuning in, man. We were just talking about you. So he says that Des is, Cape Exit is not for devolution, but for independence. Okay, so that's where they stand on that. And Des saying it is the canton system. That's the one, canton system. See, I do watch the interviews. Des, I would like to have your Cape Exit guy that was on Ramon's interview on my channel at some point. I don't know if we'll be able to organize it before the march. But anyway, I was just talking about this earlier. I want to have as many organizations as possible that were involved in the march on the show. And we're going to have a discussion. I think a nice discussion, and I'll speak to Phil Craig about it just now. A nice discussion about I don't want to say aftermath. That's such a negative word. But for lack of a better word, aftermath of the march. How you guys feel, where you think it's going, what's the next steps, those kind of things. We'll have a huge discussion. I'll invite everybody, Cape Independence, Cape Exit, ULA, CIAG, the whole shebang, and we'll do that. How about that? I think that's a good idea. So yeah, you guys are having a discussion in the chats. That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, in 4 minutes, we're going to go on a bit of a break, and then I should be back with my panelists. Cape Independence Advocacy Group, Phil Craig will be joining me. Corné Mulder from Freedom Front Plus will be joining me, and Hendrik from Cape Forum will be joining me as well. We're going to be talking about Cape Independence. Is it going to fail? Where is it standing now? Is Cape Forum for it or against it? Where does Cape Forum stand on this? And we're going to be taking questions from you guys, so please keep the questions coming in. I have saved 5 questions so far, so if you guys have any other questions, please keep them coming in. During the discussion, I will save them, and I'll definitely have a chance to just talk about the march. We're going to talk about a lot of things with Cape Independence, so stick around. And it's going to be, I think, a very interesting conversation. Des Palm saying, all good. You just let us know when. It was Andy. That's the one. Andy. So, yes, I will let you guys know. I will definitely be in contact soon. The Western Cape would gain independence, and then Swellendam would have devolution inside an independent. Yeah. It's a good example. Cool. So 2 minutes, and then we're going to go on a break. I need to... they should be calling in any time. Which, yeah, very much. There we go. Phil Craig is already in the green room, ladies and gentlemen. In a few moments, I'm going to go on a break, and then, we'll wait for the other 2 panelists to join us. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I might actually push back tonight on a few things. I might be devil's advocate tonight. I'm still thinking about it. Depends on how the conversation goes. But just to get these discussions happening, if I can say that. And please, guys, if there's anybody that's listening tonight that is not pro Cape Independence, please drop in your questions just comment, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, or YouTube. Just comment and let us. We'll talk about it. We'll address your anti-Cape Independence question if there are any. They are more than welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, in 1 minute, I'm going to go on a break. 1 minute. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Enjoy the ad break. Yes, there is an ad break now. Please, there's information you might want to hear. There's information about my stand-up comedy show, information about other stuff, some humor as well in there. So, if you guys, just stick around. Share. Let people know that this is happening. Let people know that there's some pretty important people coming onto the show. 30 seconds, and then we're going to go on a break. And let me just say thank you to everybody who's been listening, to everybody who's joined, to everybody who's been supportive of this channel, who's been sharing my stuff, watching. We are now 4,000 subscribers strong, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for all the subs, for all the watching, for all the shares. It's greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. You guys are awesome, and thank you for hanging out with me tonight. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I'm going to go on a quick break, and we'll be back in 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, with our panelists for tonight. So yeah, enjoy the ad break. Hello. While we're having a bit of a break and while we're here, I just thought I would let you guys know that you can become a member to this channel. When you become a member to this channel, there are 2 tiers. There's the Support Act and the Headliner Act. Each tier has its own perks. I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but just click on the join button, usually right next to the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, by the way, subscribe. If you want to become a member, it would be greatly appreciated. It really goes a long way to supporting the channel and helping me to continue to create content for you guys. And just in case you might be interested, for some of you who may not know, I am also a stand-up comedian, and I have a one-man show coming up in June of this year. There is a link in the description with all the details that you need to know, when, where, and how much, so please go check it out in the description below. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Joe Emilio Show. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties because there is a bit of an echo from one of the individuals on the stream, but we're sorting that out. And as a promise, ladies and gentlemen, Phil Craig from Cape Independence Advocacy Group, we have Heinrich from Cape Forum, and Dr. Corné Mulder from Freedom Front Plus, who's going to be with us in just a moment. He went to get earphones because I think that's the issue. But while we're waiting for Corné to come back, Heinrich, thank you so much for coming onto the show and being part of this. I've had a lot of questions the hour leading up to this about Cape Forum, so I'm going to shoot them away to you in just a moment. But very quickly, tonight is discussing Cape Independence, the march that is happening. Probably going to touch on the failures of the ANC. I think that's going to be a theme tonight. And yeah, we'll talk about. I've been encouraging a lot of the viewers to hand in or give their questions, which I will be getting to later on in the stream, and we can all answer. There's questions for everyone, for Cape Exit, well, for Cape Independence, for Cape Forum, and so on. Let's get right into it, gents. Firstly, if I may, Heinrich, Cape Forum. I was talking about it before you joined. The amount of, or I should say rather, the smear campaign that was just delivered to Cape Forum by News 24 is disgusting to say the least. But I'm sure you've seen the articles. I'm sure you've been. I've seen that you've been on a few interviews. Trying to explain what Cape Forum is. So, in your own words, set the record straight. What is Cape Forum all about?
Thanks a lot for the opportunity. I can't disagree with you that it's been a smear campaign, but not only News 24, but practically, well, most of, I think, the media organizations who have covered the story have focused on the criticism and the negative side of things, less on the question that you're asking, namely, what is the purpose, what is the reason for being of the Cape Forum? So a couple of months ago, Kali Kriel approached me as one of a number of individuals and organizations that AfriForum and Kali, as the head of the organization, have been speaking to about what was then still a planned initiative to form a civil society organization that will focus predominantly on issues that relates to the Western Cape and that are of concern to the people of the Western Cape. From the beginning, he's made it very clear that the organization will have to be focused in particular on the issues pertaining to the majority of the residents of the Western Cape, namely the colored communities. And for that reason, he thought it was a wise idea to have someone from the colored communities as the executive head or chairperson, if you like. And I liked what I heard. I had my own suggestions of other areas that should be focused on. To name one, housing wasn't on the initial list, and I thought it was important to add housing as one of the focus areas of the Cape Forum. And I was willing, when I was asked would I be prepared to make a shift from journalism after a career of about 3 decades in the Afrikaans media, whether I was willing and ready to make that shift into what is then called civil society politics. I do not necessarily think of it as politics, although I understand that we will operate and are operating in that realm. But to me, it's more a matter of making a contribution to the upliftment to, I don't necessarily like the word, but let's call it the empowerment of communities, and to put pressure on government to, while they are not delivering the services required or at a level required of government by our constitution, to either pass those powers, those responsibilities um, down to provincial governments or communities so that they can take care of it themselves, which will obviously then in the end require that um, more of the money that, in this case, the Western Cape are contributing to the national fiscus should be reinvested in the province. Let me then end there. I hope that gives you sort of a an elevated pitch of what the Cape Forum is aiming to be.
No, it sounds great, and it's something that is desperately needed. I'm still hearing an echo from someone. So either someone's earphone maybe not plugged in properly. So just if you could all check your earphones. It's very weird.
Joe, why
I'm
don't we
going to
just mute
remove
ourselves
my.
when we're not talking?
That's an idea, yeah.
So I'm going to remove my earphones and then we check if you can still.
Now I can't hear you at all. Oh wait, I heard something.
Not anymore.
Oh no, I can hear you. I can hear you. There we go.
Can you hear me clearly? Okay.
It's
Is
much
that echo
better.
still there?
No, it's gone. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. Thank you.
Maybe it was my earphone.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Heinrich, for that clarification. And just to clarify and make something absolutely clear one more time, because I've been seeing mainstream media saying this about Cape Forum, is Cape Forum a political party?
No, Cape Forum is absolutely not a political party. It is not. It doesn't have any such intention, or because we've had in the recent past experiences of well-known political figures who would start civil society organizations and then proclaiming that the aim is not to start a political party, but ultimately they were using the civil society organizations really just to test the waters and then to turn it into a political party, be that any of the parties using orange as their dominant color or green as their dominant color. We all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. All right, great. I just wanted to clarify that as well. Cornet, while you were gone, I was saying, I was welcoming everybody, and I wanted to welcome you. Thank you so much for giving your time as well to being a guest on the show. It is greatly appreciated. You represent Freedom Front Plus for tonight, and I think I'm going to get the conversation going now that we've cleared the air with what Cape Forum is and what they do. Cape Independence, as you guys know, there's a Freedom March on the 27th of April. I would like to get, besides Phil Craig, because we know where his stance is going to be on this, but I would like to get Freedom Front and Cape Forum. I would like to get your guys' stance on the idea of Cape Independence, and we'll start with you, Cornet.
Good evening, Joe and colleagues. I hope I'm clearly audible and that there's no feedback.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Let me start off by saying that South Africa is a very complicated country. If you look, for example, that during the constitution writing process many years ago, 1996, an ad was placed in the media to get the public to get involved in that process, and the ad said the following. The ad was placed by the Constitutional Assembly. It says South Africa, 20 million women, 18 million men, 8 religions, 25 church groups, 31 cultural groups, 14 languages, 9 racial groups, 1 country. Now that to a very certain extent indicates the diversity of South Africa. South Africa is a very diverse country. And the question is, what is the recipe that we need to find a successful solution in South Africa? Now, we all know that the ANC has been governing South Africa since 1994 for the last 28 years. And we also know what their record indicates. So in the meantime, things have developed specifically in the Western Cape, and the Western Cape is not exactly the same like the rest of South Africa, and there are various reasons for that. The Freedom Front Plus is a party that operates on national level, but that also entails that we participate in all the different provinces. So our approach to the whole idea and the vision of Cape independence is that it's not a question of either or, it's a question of and. And we believe that Cape independence will lead the Western Cape to become independent. It's not going to be an easy process, and we can talk about that process. But in the end, we think that at the moment in South Africa, we have what I would like to call an artificial colonial boundary drawn in 1910 with all kinds of problems and all kinds of implications. So the Freedom Front Plus came out in full support of independence for the Western Cape during last year. I think it was even before that. And we will be participating also in the march on the 27th of April. We think it's part of the solution, it's not part of the problem.
All right, fantastic. And Heinrich, where does Cape Forum stand on Cape independence?
So obviously, Joe, one of the accusations that have been leveled at the Cape Forum since it became known that we are in the process of starting this new organization has been that we were now joining the Cape exit movement. We are still trying to make it clear that while we want communities and the province to get more powers, more responsibilities, more control over, as I said earlier, some of these functions not sufficiently performed by national government, we do not have Cape independence as one of our focus areas or one of our goals. But we are more than happy to leave as much room as the Freedom Front Plus, the DA, the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, Phil and his supporters, as much as they need to lobby for independence. We didn't think it was necessary for another organization to be started with the same purpose as those organizations solely started with the purpose to achieve independence for the Western Cape. So Dr. Mulder referred to the Freedom Front Plus operating within the national framework of the South African Constitution. That's also where we at. But we don't have a problem with any organization who has independence for the Western Cape as its primary goal.
All right, so if Western Cape was to get independence, how would Cape Forum feel?
When are you bringing Phil into the conversation?
All right, maybe you're right. Phil, do you want to comment on what Heinrich just said?
Well, I was quite happy. I was quite enjoying it on the sidelines there.
That wasn't a cop out. Phil, it wasn't a cop out. It was accommodating. One of the diverse voices.
And my voice has been heard aplenty on this subject. I'm enjoying you and Cornet on the subject. Look, to be honest, this perhaps isn't an answer to your question, because clearly I clearly can't answer for Heinrich. But what I will say is, as an organisation, we as the CIAG and I personally are absolutely delighted to see that Cape Forum come into this space. And I think the smear campaign is a compliment. It's a compliment that says, actually, this has really upset the status quo, and it's left people feeling uncomfortable. And I think that's a really good start for an organisation that people already are feeling to have their feathers a little ruffled by Cape Forum's arrival. And I think this is a very broad space, this whole autonomous space, and I actually am very happy to see the approach that that Cape Forum have taken. Obviously, because exactly as Hendrik says, we've got organisations that are fully in favour of Cape independence, ourselves being one of them. We've got organisations like the DA who are in favour of autonomy, and actually, it's quite nice to have somebody in the middle, because I think that from our point of view, we try not to get wrapped up in dogma. I think that and ultimately the end result is what's critical here, and the end result is about improving the lives of people in the Western Cape. We don't want Cape independence for Cape independence sake. We want Cape independence because we believe it's going to deliver a better quality of life to the people in the Western Cape, and so it's going to allow us to attack issues like unemployment and poverty, and through that then inequality and living conditions and so on. So Cape independence is very much a means to an end. It's about improving people's lives, and I think ultimately the thing that hopefully binds all of us together, even though we may have slight differences, is that ultimately we want the people of the Western Cape to be able to make decisions on behalf of themselves. And I think that's the critical thing here. And it may be down the line we might disagree on what decisions I might want to take. But the critical thing is, and what can't go on, which is what has gone on for 30 years or 3 decades of South African democratic era politics, is that the rest of South Africa has made decisions on behalf of the Western Cape, normally against the will of the people living in the Western Cape, and that is what's unacceptable, and that's what we need to change. The people of the Western Cape must be able to make decisions on behalf of themselves, and whether they choose to have Cape independence or whether they choose to have greater devolution or whatever solution they choose, that's fine. That's their right to choose, not us as organizations. But what's really critical is that the people of the Western Cape do get to choose for themselves. And I'm over the moon, and I think we've got to be honest and say in the sort of autonomous space, the white community is overrepresented, and whether that's because we are feeling uncomfortable, or and I can't speak for white people, I'm speaking for myself, I guess. But it's really important that we draw all of the sort of broad community of the Western Cape into this discussion. And I think for example, I'm delighted to see that Cape Forum have come on board. And we as an organisation work tirelessly behind the scenes, often at this point without much success, to try and draw different voices into the debate, even if they vehemently disagree with us. Whether it's Khoisan groups, whether it's the Cape Coloured Congress, whether it's the Black community, to try and say, look, this is our province. Actually, we've all got to have our voices heard, and actually, this discussion needs to involve all of us. So, I'm over the moon about Cape Forum, and I'm very excited about what Hendrik's going to bring, and of course, we're fully in favour of Cape independence and can't wait to have the march.
Cool.
Joe, I thought I should just maybe add that when Phil was he was saying that it's good to have an organization that sort of positions itself in the middle. That does not constitute fence sitting. We're not sitting on the fence. We just have a different focus, and ultimately, obviously, if independence is achieved, then all the better for what it is that Cape Forum is trying to achieve. Now, Phil may recall, I don't know how long ago, probably a year ago, we were part of another conversation hosted by another moderator, and in that conversation, I was speaking as a commentator, journalist, op-ed writer, and I was very clear that if you are hoping to achieve independence, you would have to consult the colored communities who still, even if it's by a slight margin, forming the, and we can also talk about that issue if you want, still the majority of people in the Western Cape. I was then clear that they needed to, you would need buy-in from them if you're hoping to achieve independence. Because if the majority of the people of the Western Cape are not in favor of it, then I don't think you'll be able to achieve that goal. Am I conflicting myself when I am now in this position with the Cape Forum? No, not at all. I, as Phil has put it, I think very succinctly, also want ultimately better services, better living conditions for the people of the Western Cape. So I'm happy that I've been able to move through this opportunity, Phil, from being almost completely on the opposite side to closer to the middle then, and hopefully Cape Forum will also make at least a contribution to make people realize that they have the power to take control over some of these functions that everybody is complaining about, but then find all kinds of excuses not to put pressure on a government that's failing us every minute of every day.
Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Um, just very quickly as we move on, because now everybody's kind of, said their stance, where they are, and this is good because there's some questions coming in that I definitely want to get to, and one of which is, okay, so we spoke about Cape Independence. We know where all of us stand on Cape Independence, and for the record, I am for it. So when that referendum happens, I'm definitely going to be voting. However, Cornet, I definitely want to get your input here because there is a discussion around federalism, and you as well, Phil. There's a discussion now, especially from the DA, talking about federalism. We got to push for federalism. There's been certain aspects happening in the Western Cape that could make that possible. But I'm skeptical about federalism. I still fear because the overarching power is still going to be ANC. But would you settle for federalism? Phil, would you settle for federalism? Cornet, you can start first. Is that something you guys are willing to settle for, or are you gunning for the independence?
The party that I belong to is called the Freedom Front Plus. I won't settle for anything but freedom. And the tragedy is that at the moment we have a very centralized state. The ANC as a party specifically is very centralized. They believe in centralization. All decisions are taken in Lutuli House, and from there they are communicated to the union buildings, and from there to ministers if they can find them, and then to civil servants if they can find them, and then it impacts on our lives. No, I believe in freedom, and in the end of the day, yes, you have to go through certain processes, and part of those processes may be that we will have to have more powers, devolution of powers, etc. That is part of the process. Independence just doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that you'll have to go through, and it may be that part of that process is a more federal structure. But the tragedy is that South Africa does not have a record of being a federal state. For example, if you look at federal examples, be that Switzerland, be that Belgium, Germany, United States, and even Nigeria and other African states, we don't have that. We've got a centralized situation. So it's good that we move into that direction, but I believe in the end we need to take our own decisions, and that would be in terms of freedom, in terms of independence, and we will move beyond federalism as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree with that. Phil, what about Cape Independence Advocacy Group? Where do you guys stand on federalism?
Well, we're not called the Cape Federal Advocacy Group, so no. Look, we favour Cape independence, but I think, and I think reflecting Cornet's comments that Cape independence is a process, and it may be that we have to pass through aspects of federalism on our path to Cape independence, and I think we have to be pragmatic and deliver the wins that we can win. But I mean, we absolutely are for Cape independence, and I think the key thing is self-determination is the key word behind it. The people of the Western Cape must be able to make decisions for themselves. And I think probably I'm glad you've asked this because at times we're misunderstood because perhaps we seem to be more sympathetic towards federalism, and I think people misunderstand that to think that we want federalism. And actually, if you listen to my speech at the Cape Town Press Club last year, we very specifically talked about the things that federalism wouldn't rectify, wouldn't solve. Federalism won't bring. The biggest one is it won't bring economic policy into the control of the Western Cape government. And how are we ever going to deal with unemployment and poverty if we can't control economic policy? But I think where we're probably more understanding of the space is just recognizing that this groundswell of opinion. Autonomy is a broad subject, and I think we have to make a decision as a movement. And people who are pushing for Cape independence is: do we want to be the sort of the 5 or 10% in the corner screaming about everybody else because we are so idealistic and so ideological about what we want that actually we kind of turn everybody against us? Or do we actually take hands with people who are nearly the same as us, and actually agree to get ourselves over the line? And from my point of view, the critical thing for who are we prepared, who am I prepared to work with, is people who are willing to put decision making into the hands of the Western Cape people are my allies, and people who are not willing to put decision making into the hands of the Western Cape people but want to have it centrally are my political enemies. And that is the two difference. And I think, in terms of self-determination, we have to deliver to the Western Cape the ability for the Western Cape people to say either we want Cape independence or we don't want Cape independence. And I think in terms of, so from that point of view, I think the whole discussion around federalism is a helpful one. And I think you have to look back and say, look, 3 years ago, nobody was talking about federalism. So the fact that everybody is talking about federalism is actually a symbol of the strength and the success of the Cape independence movement, because suddenly people who would never have wanted federalism to their dying day are now suggesting it as a compromise solution, because actually they now realize that thing. So I think it's all part of the big discussion. And I think whether it's autonomy, whether it's a growing autonomy, which I think was the Cape Forum word, whether it's federalism, whether it's confederalism, whether it's independence, people who want those things are on the same team. And I often describe it as a train journey. And on one end of the train line is centralism, central control, a democratic centralism, I think is its technical term. And on the other end of the line is Cape independence. So there are lots of stations along the way. And as long as the train is leaving democratic centralism and picking up steam towards Cape independence, that's great. And actually, it may be that down the line, when it comes to the day that we hold a referendum on Cape independence, some of the organizations that have collaborated to get to the referendum perhaps have different views, and that's fine. But for now, they're our allies. So do we support federalism? No. We want Cape independence. Would I take federalism over what we've got now? Absolutely. And therefore, people that are pushing for more autonomy are and want to give control to the Western Cape people, and perhaps it's a phase that we have to go through. But I think probably not. I think we're probably not talking about formal federalism. I think we're talking about the process of taking control away from the central government and giving it to the people of the Western Cape. And I'm all for that. And ultimately, the decision they make once they get that control isn't mine to make or the CIG's to make. It belongs to the people of the Western Cape.
Well said. I think the next question I have for Corné and Hendrik is a very important one. Phil, if you want to answer this question, you can. But Cape Independence Advocacy Group is more of a pressure group. I, in my personal opinion, I see you guys as the marketing team of the movement, if I can put it that way. You bring statistics and stuff like that. You're very good at doing that. Whereas this question that I'm about to ask, I feel is more something that I think a lot of people and a lot of Western Cape people are worried about when it comes to Cape independence. And I'm going to start with Corné on this one. What if Cape independence is going to happen? Does Freedom Front Plus, or have Freedom Front Plus given any thought to what they would do to the very serious issue of Cape gangsterism in the Western Cape?
Well, I think that if you get to the point of independence, obviously you will elect a government representative of your people, and it will be a government for the people, dealing with the issues of the people. Now, the whole issue of gangsterism is a huge problem in the Western Cape, and we all know that, and it's come for a very long time. I personally think that it's a question of economics. It's a question that we do not succeed in creating sufficient jobs and getting our people into our economy in the Western Cape, where we've got a strong economy that grow and where people can fend for themselves and don't have to do those kind of things. And with gangsterism goes the whole question of drugs and all those substance abuse. So I honestly believe that once we get that and we can move forward in a positive way, it can be addressed. And obviously, your police service will preferably be coming from within the community themselves, which we don't have at the moment. People will go to a police station perhaps now, and they will be in the situation where they've got a problem and they cannot be addressed in their own mother tongue. And I think those kind of things need to be addressed and also make provision for, and I think it can be solved.
All right, Hendrik, what is Cape Forum's plans on gangsterism in the Western Cape, if any?
So policing is one of our goals, Joe. And obviously, when you talk about policing in the Western Cape, the gangsterism problem is probably your primary challenge because it involves murder, rape, um, and all the sort of the other so-called contact crimes, violent crimes, sexual crimes, whatever is on the top of that list. It has some connection to, obviously, also organized crime, economic crimes. So it is should be one of the primary focus areas. But you're not going to solve the gang problem simply through policing. I think Corneille has now made the point that it is also an economic problem. So gangsterism in itself is an economy by itself. It's also a governance system in those communities and among those gangs. But it takes us back then. I hate to use the ANC's so-called triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. But ultimately, if you look at gangsterism, you have to take those three challenges into account. If you don't solve that, people will be, or young people will be attracted to gangs because it offers them a job, it offers them a kind of equality, it offers them an escape from poverty. That's why you also find that quite often, even when someone is killed in those communities, there are those who would appear at the in front of the courthouse in support of the accused, because the accused may be someone who's been supporting those families. It doesn't mean they support gangsterism. It simply means that to them that's one of the means to providing for their families, or at least to have some food on the table or money in their hands. So gangsterism needs to be unpacked before you can even think about the policing or putting an end to the problem. It is often said that politicians, and I'm not pointing a finger at Corneille, I'm talking about your national governing party, it's not really investing the amount of resources that is needed, because I don't know if they've just given up or if there's some kind of reward for the national government or the governing party if that problem remains a destabilizing factor in the Western Cape. So a lot of questions and a lot of different issues, diverse issues that one needs to take into consideration before one can give you a straight answer to this problem, Joe.
Fair enough.
Joe, if I may add just one thing, if you
Go
don't
ahead.
mind. You will also be aware that within the ranks of the Freedom Front Plus, we have one of my colleagues, General Leonard Max, who is an expert in terms of policing. He was Police Commissioner in the Western Cape. And with regard to gangs, violence, and those problems, he also knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. So when we become independent, who knows where General Leonard Max will serve?
He was also, if I may add, to General Leonard Max's attributes, Joe. He is also the one who came up with the idea of a gang unit in the Western Cape. Because you may recall that when the ANC took over, they had this idea that it need to get rid of everything that was in place and that was working, get rid of it and start anew. So General Max is the person who was able to convince the ANC decision makers that you do need a specialized gang unit if you're hoping to make any inroads in solving the problem.
Okay. I'm just hearing more reasons why independence is needed so that we can take control of our policing. All right, so I thought this comment was quite funny. I hope you guys can see it on your screen. Petra was asking the panelists, can we please get them to promise that they'll ban mainstream media? I thought you guys might have a chuckle at that comment. Well, I think mainstream media, if Cape independence was to gain, well, if Cape was to gain independence, the mainstream media would be different. We'd have our own media houses and so on and so forth. Listen, guys, just quickly, I want to address the people in the comments. Firstly, thank you all so much for watching. You're watching the Joe Emilio Show. I have with me Phil Craig from the Cape Independence Advocacy Group. I have Hendrik from Cape Forum and Dr. Corné Mulder from Freedom Front Plus. We are discussing Cape independence amongst other things as well, the failure of the state and so on. If you're just joining me, please share, please like, please tell people this is happening, and keep the questions coming in, because I am keeping an eye on the questions, and this is where I'm getting all my questions from. They're very good questions from everybody that is listening. One of which is, I think this is an important thing to mention here, is Andy says, Joe, what does the panel say to the 825,000 plus people that have signed up for independence and definitely not devolution of power within South Africa? Now, I think for the most part, we've all made ourselves clear on that, but the question I'm going to rather ask the panelists now is, at this stage, and this is where the question or the title to this video comes in, because I said, will Western Cape independence fail, or is it failing? 800,000 I don't think is enough to get a referendum. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does this, in your opinion, show that maybe Cape independence is not an idea that South Africans really want to happen? We'll start with Corné on this one.
No, definitely not. Let me try to put it this way. I'm on record to say that we are going to have more than one referendum. And with all due respect, if you look at the process, you don't call for a referendum until you are ready and you know that you can win that referendum. You don't want to have a referendum and lose it, and then the powers to be will say, no, but you've had your chance, and maybe in 20 years we can talk about that again. No, that's not the point. We first of all need to make sure that we've got the support to win the referendum. And it's important that, as Phil earlier pointed out, that the different organizations and political parties and all those who are in support of walking around this road will not oppose one another in that process, that we will support the whole notion of the referendum question, so that we can be sure that we end up with an overwhelming yes vote. So it's true that at this stage that Cape Exit succeeded in getting more than 800,000 people to sign up and become members of Cape Exit. And in doing so, they have expressed themselves in favor of a referendum. And they've also indicated that when that referendum comes, they will vote yes for independence. Now, I said in the beginning there will be more than one referendum. A first referendum may be to test the will of the people in the Western Cape when the time comes. Then suddenly, I believe that the powers to be will start to take this very seriously, and they'll understand that this is a reality. And then we will go through a process to implement, to negotiate, to agree on a constitutional dispensation and how we're going to govern ourselves. And I believe at the end, before we take the final step, there very well may be a further referendum to get the approval of the electorate in the Western Cape, and then we can do what we need to do. So that is going to be the process. And you can imagine those people that have signed up, be that to Cape Exit, be those members of the Freedom Front Plus, be those members of Cape Independence Advocacy Group or other political parties, organizations, we need them all to become activists and to become very much involved in their own future. And we will have to go down that road. And I think it's very exciting in terms of what's going to happen in the next few months and the next few years.
All right, Hendrik. Look, again, I know where you stand on this. So rather, let me switch the question slightly for you and say, would Cape Forum support the call for a referendum on this topic?
So I hope I don't sound like a politician now, Joe, when I respond in the following way. It is not a question that we have discussed yet. But I know that there seems to be some, let's call it legal uncertainty, or we need more clarity on whether your provincial government, your premier, has the constitutional powers as we speak to call a referendum. And in that regard, Cape Forum is ready to play a leading role in trying to get to more clarity on that issue, because obviously if the province can't call a referendum, if the premier can't do that, then we're stuck. Then we need to go with a begging bowl to the ANC as the national government, or depend on Corneille and others to convince good ANC members, the ones that are left, to support such a call for a referendum in the province. So I hope that answers in a way.
Yeah.
But I do know that the DA, because I see someone in your comments section is asking about the DA specific reference or promise prior to the local government elections in November last year. So I know the DA wants as much as we do for that at least devolution of powers, which is why I'm also disappointed that both Phil and Corneille, as much as I appreciate their private messages of congratulations, they were late, because they sent me those messages after I've already heard from Jordan Hill Lewis and Helen Zeller. So I thought I should just throw that in there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Phil. Back to the question of is 850,000, and I will get to the question of the referendum, guys. There have been at least 4 people asking about that, so we'll get to that in a moment. But Phil, with the current question, 800,000 plus. Do you think that's a sign of failure in the Cape Independence movement?
No, not at all. Look, I think it's probably a slightly, what's the right word? I think it's the wrong metric. Let me say that first of all, because actually, what's going to deliver a referendum on Cape independence is the answer is political pressure. And in terms of numbers, look, I think in terms of, look, I've got a marketing background, and to get 825,000 people to do anything, particularly when it's opt-in, you have to go onto a website, you have to fill in some details, is actually an incredible achievement. So first of all, hats off to Cape Exit. I think it's an incredible number. The number itself is utterly irrelevant in terms of actually, 825,000 people who do nothing are utterly worthless. 100,000 people who are going to move heaven and earth for a cause they believe in will change the world. So I think that is the key question. I don't think a fixed number of people is going to deliver us a referendum on Cape independence. The political pressure that we place upon the government is the Western Cape government, and that comes to your referendum question, to fix the referendum legislation, to call the referendum. That is what counts. And there are various ways we can create political pressure. The march obviously is one of them. That's one of the key things of the march, is to create political pressure. And I think that's the critical thing here. And actually, the question is not how many people have signed up with Cape Exit. The number's phenomenal. The question is, once they've signed up with Cape Exit, what are they going to do? Because actually, if they're just going to sign the form and then go about their life as usual and hope that somebody else is miraculously going to deliver Cape independence for them whilst they're busy braaiing on Braai Day, then it's not going to happen. Actually, and I think there's a statistic, and I love the statistic, and I know Des loves it too, and it was the BBC report that said they analysed change around the world in the last 60 years. And they said there's never been a single example of change anywhere in the world where 3.5% of the population became active in support of a cause, and the change didn't happen. So actually what we need is 3.5% of the population to be seriously motivated, which is about 200,000 in Western Cape terms. So give us 200,000 people that are Mel Gibson warriors, who want their freedom and will deliver Cape independence. Put 200,000 people on the street in 2 weeks' time, we'll have the independence. Have 200,000 people standing outside Alan Wyndham's office demanding a referendum, we'll have a referendum. But actually, those people have to get motivated, and I think that is one of the challenges. I think the Cape Independence movement has been brilliant to come so far, but now we have to get people fired up. And actually, it's not how many people have signed up on a document; it's how many of those people are actually going to get behind this cause and put themselves out there and become activists for Cape Independence and stand up and be counted, vote if they need to vote for it, march if they need to march for it, and be seen and wear their colours on their sleeves. So brilliant achievement, but the numbers are relevant.
Fair enough. You're right. People need to put their money where their mouth is. I would like to ask you guys a follow-up question on that, specifically to Corné and Phil, because I think you guys would know the answer to this. So many people have been asking in the comment section, in the live chats, what is the current status of the referendum promised by the DA before the LGE 2021 elections, and a guesstimate of the time to getting the referendum? I think maybe Corné, you would, I'm assuming here, correct me if I'm wrong, do you have any updates on that?
I don't have any specific updates from the Democratic Alliance's point of view, but with regard to the question of the referendum, I could perhaps assist. I think, first of all, we should understand what the practical problem is. The Constitution does make provision that the Premier of a province can call a referendum. You'll find that in section 127(2)(f) of the Constitution. So it's in the Constitution. It's also a provision in the Western Cape Constitution. Provinces are entitled to have constitutions, and the Western Cape is the only one in South Africa that does have a constitution, which also indicates the Western Cape is different than some of the other provinces. The problem is that legislation in the Constitution that makes provision for that needs legislation in terms of the practicality of calling the referendum. And that legislation has not been passed. So we are aware that the Democratic Alliance did indicate that they were going to bring some legislation to make that possible. Up to where we are today, they have not brought that legislation in the legislatures of the Western Cape. So that is still outstanding. And I know there are some interaction to put some pressure on the Democratic Alliance and to say, well, if you are serious about devolution, and they say they are, if you are serious about more federal concepts for the Western Cape, then we would need that referendum. And from our side, obviously, we will also apply some more pressure to do that. If that is not what they're going to do, then there are other methods also to force the hand, also even of the ruling party, to amend the current law on referendums in South Africa, because I believe that law is unconstitutional.
All right, it's good to know that Freedom Front Plus is keeping an eye on the DA, but I know that Phil Craig's also keeping an eye on the DA. Phil, do you second what Corné says, or do you have any other information?
No, look. So I do. It's always difficult when you're look. We're a lobby group, and we do engage with all political parties and with the DA on a fairly regular basis, and I'm always a bit coy in terms of what to say, because you don't want to betray confidences, but it's fair to say the DA haven't done what they said they were going to do, and I can say that, we've got a press release coming out tomorrow where actually we've pointed out that one of the purposes of the march is to, as we've called it, keep the DA honest on the referendum legislation. So they announced the referendum legislation in June last year. They called for, it was published in the Government Gazette. They called for comments in Parliament. I know because I spoke to Natasha Mazzoni, who's the chief whip, was the person who championed the bill. I spoke to Natasha. Parliament was completely overwhelmed with support for the referendum legislation, both in terms of the volumes of comments, which I understand were totally unprecedented, and they were almost totally in favour. And more than that, they weren't just one-word answers. say, the DA themselves were taken aback with the level of support for independence. Initially, the DA were expecting that would be then tabled in Parliament in November. It never happened. Then we were told it was going to be tabled around the end of January, beginning of February, and that's not happened. And we are currently pushing for further information. So we're currently engaged with the DA, but at this point in time, they're dragging their heels. I think it's fair to say that the DA have got to focus on coalition politics, and I think as a movement, we've got I have a good relationship with the DA, and I think they've done an awful lot of good, and I think we can be very grateful for what they've done in the Western Cape. But they've got their eye on 2024, and as a movement now, a collective movement, even just beyond independence, but for Cape Forum and all of us now, the onus is for us to keep the DA, because what the DA are going to do if we're not careful is allow the Western Cape people to become a bargaining chip in coalition politics for their ambitions. And I think Hendrik's Cornay's and is the thing. We understand that at a national level we need to unseat the ANC, and coalition politics is the best of a bad lot. It's a risky game because we can end up with an ANC AFF. But I understand that's the game that the DA and actually, individually, as an individual, I would support them in their ambitions for coalition politics nationally. I know Cornay's been very involved himself, and I'm sure he is the same. But that can't come at the expense of the Western Cape people. We don't need coalition politics in the Western Cape, and if we are going to have coalition politics, it's going to be the coalitions of the ideologically aligned. It's going to be the DA, the Freedom Front, plus the Cape Independence Party. It's going to be organisations that actually want the same thing. So we can't be sold down the river on this, and we have to have a situation where the people of the Western Cape get to have their say, and that's the issue. So I think the DA have made a lot of promises. I think they've made them in good faith. There may be good reasons why they're behind, but we're currently trying to find that out. But at this point in time, they haven't done what they said they were going to do. From our point of view, we'll continue to age in good faith. But if it comes to the point in time where the DA don't honour their agreements, and they, and I think it has taken a long time to bring that legislation before Parliament, then it's up for us to put pressure onto the DA, and there are various ways that we can do that. We're actively looking at those at the moment. We're not happy that the legislation hasn't been called, and it certainly can't be a slow walk to 2024 so the DA get what they want, and we're all kept hanging on a string. What we can guarantee you is that's not going to happen. If the DA don't bring this legislation, at some point, we've walked. I think how we phrased it in our press release tomorrow is, look, we've chosen to broadly as a movement, collaborate and have a decent relationship with the DA, and that's been two sides. They've been very good to us, I have to say, as an organisation, and be very open to engaging. So I don't want to be unfair, but that's all well and good. But actually, we represent a huge number of people in the Western Cape collectively as a group between us. We want Cape independence. We want a referendum on Cape independence. They've agreed to a referendum. They've agreed to fix the legislation, and they've agreed to give us a referendum or a referendum question on Cape independence. And they must now make good on that promise.
Fantastic. So what I'm hearing is Cape Independence Advocacy Group and Freedom Front Plus will keep an eye on the DA and hopefully put some pressure on them, which is good. We need that, and I hope you guys will. Now, a very important question, because I know that Hendrik he doesn't have a lot of time with us. So there's two questions that I quickly want to get to. Maybe I should ask this one first because it's specifically for Cape Forum. Someone asked earlier in the show, please may you ask Heinrich how the public can get involved with Cape Forum. So perhaps you can answer that quickly before you have to go, Heinrich.
Joey, thank you very much for the question. We have not officially launched the organization. Our time frame was sort of disrupted by the Sunday paper reports article 2 Sundays ago that announced the establishment of what they refer to as Colored People's Own AfriForum. So we are putting our systems in place, now plans in place, and we're planning our official launch for the 4th of May. Then we will also have an active website, for instance, and our membership forms will be available from that date. So in the meantime, I think people are welcome to give me a call. I don't mind to share my contact details. You've got my telephone number, so you can share that at the end maybe, or my email address. And then I'll be happy to hear from people, as I have heard from so many South Africans from across the country. We have received requests that we should broaden the scope of the Cape Forum to the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape, for instance. I've heard from, if you don't mind me using the old South African language of referring to people in terms of race, colored people, whites, Africans, everyone who's, well, apart from those who chose to use social media to criticize the initiative as opposed to starting a conversation and trying to find out what we're all about. There are those in numbers who have reached out and who has praised the initiative that we're starting. So I'm happy to say we might not be at the 800K that Phil and his guys managed to get, but we are well on our way to make more people understand what the Cape Forum is all about and how everyone in the province can benefit by becoming part of this initiative, as opposed to simply criticizing. And of course, you would understand, and your audience tonight, as well as Phil and Dr. Mulder, that a lot of the criticism is really leveled at AfriForum. So why would someone who comes from the colored community, someone who's been on the receiving end of apartheid, want to work with such an organization? I have a very, very simple response to that, Joe, and it is simply that why would I refuse help? Remember, I'm not being I'm not being sold anything here by anyone. I'm not naive. I also don't think colored people are naive, because it's now being said that myself and AfriForum wants to abuse the colored people. It's so patronizing. It makes it sound like people can't think for themselves. And I'm hoping that a lot of people will, even more people will step forward and look at the opportunities offered when communities take each other's hand, decide to work together and to discuss differences, as opposed to simply saying that you're not interested. And it's not like the national government is doing a lot for the majority population of the Western Cape. So here is an opportunity, and I'm here this evening participating in your conversation because I believe that it is time to of course, we can't forget the past, but it's time to focus more on the opportunities that the now and the future offers us. I'm not leaving the conversation yet, so
Okay, all right,
yeah,
awesome. Well, Heinrich, look, at a later stage, 4th of May is Star Wars Day, so I'm busy. But, but I will be keeping...
I'm too old to relate to that reference.
You not see the lightsaber in the background. My point is, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that announcement. Maybe send me an email with all the details. But like, I would like to know if the launch is going to be something that I can attend. If it's in Cape Town, obviously it's in Cape Town. I would like to somehow cover it if possible. And also, would like to have you back on the show for a whole hour, just me and you chatting about Cape Forum and putting some of these horrible things that people are saying about Cape Forum to rest. But that's for a later stage. Thank you for staying on with us as well. The next question actually ties in a little bit with what you were saying, Heinrich, is, this is something that really bothers me, especially with the mainstream media. In order to smear anything, any movement that they don't like, any organization that they don't like, it's immediately smeared as or alluded that it is a racist organization, it's a racist movement. It's like you said, it's very patronizing as well. And this is more for Freedom Front Plus and Phil Craig. Phil Craig, we've discussed this before, but I do want to get Dr. Cornet's opinion on this. Dr. Cornet, your party has been very vocal on the support of Cape independence. You've said it now on the show, on record, your opinions and such. What do you have to say to people who label the movement as a racist, white-only movement?
I see. I would say that they are rather ignorant, that they are caught in the past, and that they are politically so woke and so correct, try to be, that they're completely out of touch with reality. It's the same thing where people would refer to, I saw some of the articles in reaction to Cape Forum, for example, where people said, this is now right-wing politics, etc. This is so outdated. It's rather pathetic, actually, because people don't understand, they don't know. It's absolutely in line with the modern international way of thinking. How do you accommodate people? How do you accommodate people in terms of self-determination? How do you accommodate people in terms of minorities, minority rights, those kind of things? It's a very outdated kind of concept to think that democracy means one person, one vote, and then you are being dominated by a majority. So that is completely out of touch. If you talk about racism and the whole idea of Cape independence, that is also something that people would grab to and try to taint these kind of suggestions and these kind of organizations. Anyone who's aware of what's happening will know that none of the parties involved, that none of the organizations involved are based on race or based on exclusiveness or whatever the case may be. It's not the case. It's inclusive. If you can come and look at the Freedom Front Plus in terms of our membership, in terms of our elected representatives, we are represented throughout the different society and communities in South Africa. And that goes for all the organizations involved. In the end, you don't get independence or you don't get self-determination for a racial group. It doesn't exist. So people are really out of touch and not in line with modern thinking when they do these kind of things. But sometimes I've looked at some of the reactions with regard to the whole Cape independence thing, but also with regard to the formation of Cape Forum. And it's actually really laughable because it's some of the guys who just jump to certain conclusions and they try to taint, and that is their input. They are really out of touch with reality.
Yeah, I would second that. Heinrich,
So
you want
Joe,
to say?
yeah. So Joe, so you would understand as well as my fellow panelists that being a qualified journalist, I wouldn't want to point finger at other media practitioners or organizations. Also, because when you're a new organization, you really need media exposure. But what one finds is it's probably more intellectual laziness, a refusal to think harder, to delve deeper into what the initiative might mean. So the obvious thing to do is to lash out at AfriForum because your views about the organization already exist, and you can't really afford to say anything different about them or anything positive about them. So now you're projecting your hate of AfriForum on whatever it is that they're touching. But the wonderful thing is, everybody knows AfriForum, the racist organization, is being approached by, for instance, the African or black soccer legend Senzo Meyiwa's family. It wasn't AfriForum who went to the family. They came to the organization to ask for help in regards to the court case to try and find out who killed him. And so there are a number of other examples. But people refuse to see that. Or they probably think that the Meyiwa family, I can't really think for themselves. And I hope that the more we see that kind of cooperation across the color line, if you like, will make more people realize that no individual, no organization can be described in a singular way. In the same way that we know now that much as the DA sometimes sound like they believe Cyril Ramaphosa is one of the remaining good ones in the ANC, he's still representing the ANC and whatever the ANC stands for or has become. So it's just interesting that a lot of this criticism, and it's been very ugly, also because there's a sense that the organization is trying to represent or be a voice for colored people. And we've never claimed to do that or want to do that. We're simply saying we're looking at who the majority of the people of the Western Cape are and what those challenges are in those, particularly in those communities. So it's supposed to be as simple as that. But I refer to them as middle class moaners. They have chosen to 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 turn this into what it is not. Here's the funny part: they're not getting mass support for those views because they are out of touch with how, shall I call it, normal colored people or Joe Public, if you like, in the colored community are looking at these kind of developments. It's been a choir of welcoming what Cape Forum is planning to do for those communities. Remember, we're not a political party who needs votes during election time. Yes, we are going to do a membership drive because it is important that the organization gets support, proven support, and that you can only do with your membership numbers. But as Phil also emphasized earlier, it's no use really if you have all that support on paper, if you like, and then you're not able to influence. So even if it's smaller numbers of membership, we are confident that with the help of organizations such as the Cape Independence Advocacy Group and the Freedom Front Plus, we'll be able to turn people's heads and to show results, be they small or large.
Fantastic. I very much look forward to the official launch of Cape Forum. I'm very excited about it myself. And Phil, you know, we've said it before on the show. I've had you on my show before many times. You know, we've tackled this racism issue against the Cape Independence movement numerous times in many different ways. You guys have showed polling that that reflects the population of the Western Cape and all that. It's all on your website. But in brief, what do you say to those who accuse you or the movement as a white racist movement?
To be honest, there's not much point for the most part. It's a nonsensical argument. Apart from anything else, I think now we're waiting to see what the figures, but let's assume that the current population of the Western Cape is about 13% white. Cape independence is premised upon more than 50% of the people of the Western Cape voting for Cape independence. So just on that basis alone, it's a complete irrelevance. It's just statistically not possible. As you say, our polling shows that the overwhelming majority of Cape independence supporters aren't white. But it's fine. You're not going to argue that away. We must just press forward. And I think exactly as Hendrik says, at the end of the day, that people, the reality on the ground is different. People understand it. We're run by an exco. It's multiracial. We've got people of all three racial groups running our organization. We've got people of all three racial groups supporting our organization, and that's fine. And it'll be, and interestingly enough, that kind of sort of dovetails with something there that Hendrik picked up on. And I think, talking about AfriForum, I think AfriForum are an organization that for most people are inspirational. And I think one of the things that media tries to do, but normal people don't, is one of the things that in my experience is no organization is perfect. I am a member of AfriForum. I make no bones about that. I think they've done a fantastic job. Delighted they're bringing Cape Forum. Do I agree with everything AfriForum does? Do I agree with everything that Ernst or Callie says? No, I don't. I'm an individual. I'm never going to agree with any one person. But actually, do I think the world is a better place? Do I think South Africa is fundamentally a better place because AfriForum exists? They are. And I think that's the same thing with Cape Independence. We've got a purpose. We've just got to move forward, and we've got to make the world a better place for people. And ultimately, will be the results will stand for themselves. And we can't. I always love Churchill quotes. So I like to get one in. So let's have a really good Churchill quote. And Churchill says, if you stop to argue with every dog that barks at you along the way, you'll never reach your destination. And And I think that's that probably is a good way to think about these things. You know, in the day, we can't get sidetracked by other people's issues. And I think, you know, you always the guy who cheats on his wife is always the guy that's most paranoid about being cheated on. I think we see the world through our own lenses, and people who just are obsessed with race and can't see anything but race see that in us, and we're not going to change that. But that's their issue, not ours. I always I've got a clear conscience myself. I've got a clear conscience of our organisation. We fall over backwards, and we want to build a better country for everybody. And we're going to be busy getting on with doing that. And if other people want to howl from the sidelines because they think that's inappropriate, let them howl.
Fair enough. I think well said. And this will go on to my next question, which is there's been two questions that I feel are roughly the same. I think I will first go with Jerome, who earlier said, firstly, what do you say to Cape exit just being another attempt by economic elite to protect their interests by piggybacking on marginalized people's real challenges with narrow ethno-nationalism? And I think we touched a bit on it already, but Beverly also kind of saying, you know, the same thing. It's people who are power hungry. It's self-interest to exit South Africa. Phil, do you want to address these comments? And then we'll go to Corné after that.
Look, it's so first and foremost, it's democracy. It's not about taking power, and the irony is that for the most part, people behind Cape Independence don't want any power at all. You know, most of us, and certainly for myself, and I know many of the others, you know, we're really reluctant people who've ended up in this political sphere. We make huge sacrifices. It costs us a fortune in terms of time and money to run these organisations. So it's definitely not about self-benefit. But ultimately, I think there are two principles. It's based on democracy. It's based on the democratic will of the Western Cape people. All we're saying, the people of the Western Cape, rather than the people in the rest of South Africa, must decide for the Western Cape. Ultimately, what they decide is up to them. And I think that's the key message here. So first of all, it's based on what the people of the Western Cape want. It's certainly not a power trip. And then in terms of protecting privilege, personally, and you can go and read some of my writings, the last thing I want to do is to protect privilege. At times I'm probably to the left of the Cape independence movement. And for me, one of the absolute must-dos in terms of Cape independence is we must change people's lives fundamentally for the better. It's about uplifting people's lives, and I think it's the difficulty is what have we got? What's happened in the Western Cape after 28 years? Has the Western Cape got fundamentally better for the people living here? And the answer is not really. Is it going to? If we do nothing, if we just carry on with this ANC government or the EFF, or we have some coalition, are suddenly all of the issues of the Western Cape going to be solved? Is Khayelitsha or Mitchell's Plain or Lavender Hill suddenly going to become a middle-class housing estate full of employed people driving their, the 2-year-old car to work? No, it's not. It's going to continue with people living in poverty and with inequality. So actually, I think it's wrong to start saying, hang on a second, you're trying to preserve the privilege. No, we're not. We're trying to change it. We're fundamentally trying to change it. And actually, what's happened so far has been a disaster. So, I think it's, I would say, give Cape independence a chance. Let's see where we go with this. We can't do any worse than what's happened now. And actually, at very least, if Cape independence is going to happen and it's going to be an abject failure, at least let it have been our decision, the collective people of the Western Cape. Let us decide how we want to be given. And if we make a mistake, then it's our mistake. But having to live with somebody else's mistake, knowing that the majority of you have voted against it for 28 years, that's not democracy. And that's the reality. The Western Cape does not have functional democracy. We might have actual democracy, but we don't have functional democracy because we don't get the government we vote for year in, year out, and we have no prospect of ever getting the government we vote for.
Fair enough.
Joe, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe, I'd like to respond to another one of Jerome's questions pertaining to the Cape Forum. He's asking, what gap does Cape Forum wish to fill in the brown community, as he calls it?
Yes. I was going to ask you that after this.
The Triple C, or the Cape Coloured Congress, or PA, which I assume is a reference to the Patriotic Alliance, and so on are not addressing already. So maybe just to make a distinction between a political party, which is the Patriotic Alliance, and which is what the Cape Forum is not, and also the Cape Coloured Congress, which is a lobby group. Yeah, so we're not a political party. I've made that clear earlier. We are closer to a lobby group, but we have a very, very specific goal, and that is that we are lobbying, fighting, establishing ourselves as an organization, a company without a non-profit company that will aim to ensure that the communities, the people, all the people of the Western Cape, not only the colored communities, are beneficiaries of what we refer to as growing federalism or greater autonomy, if you like. It means that we want some of those powers, as I said earlier also, that is now vested with national government to be devolved, to be passed on through law to those communities or to the province. So I'm told one shouldn't tell people what you're not. You should tell them what you are. But let me just say, much as we will give special focus or attention to the colored communities, the Cape Forum is not a colored organization. There are, as Jerome rightly points out, political parties like the PA and lobby groups like Gatville Capetonians or the Cape Coloured Congress, who are very clear about the fact that they are fighting for a better dispensation, if you like, for colored people. But remember, that's within the current system. That is fighting for the national government to pay more attention to the colored community. And good luck with them. I mean, good luck to them with that struggle. We support what they're doing, but we are something different.
Cool. Thank you for addressing that question. Yeah. So, Corne, back to you. The idea that, as I mentioned before with Phil, the idea that this is all for the elite and is to keep on the powers that be in the Western Cape and blah, blah, blah. Basically, this idea that, I don't know, for some reason, people think that there's some people in the Western Cape that own everything and want to hold on to that power. Ridiculous sentiment. But anyway, your comments on that.
Well, if it's about political power, we should all have joined the ANC many years ago and became true cadres of the ANC, and maybe would have been awarded by doing so to get into power. We haven't done so. This is about democracy. It's about the people's right to express themselves. And there's no reason why the people of the Western Cape should be sentenced to lifelong imprisonment under an ANC majority somewhere up in the north. That's not democracy. That is not self-determination. That is not freedom. It's got nothing to do with holding on to certain privileges or certain powers. And if being governed by an effective and efficient state is called privileges, then at last the ANC should strive to obtain that kind of reality. There's no reason why we should back and wait to be pulled into total destruction by the ANC, because, as somebody correctly pointed out, there's nothing that the ANC touched in the last 28 years that does not need a turnaround strategy. So really, the people of the Western Cape are entitled to take their own decisions, to create their own future. That is called self-determination, and that will lead us to freedom in the Western Cape. And we support that. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with privileges. And I see a very important role for Cape Forum in that regard, because I honestly believe that the most marginalized community in South Africa, and specifically in the Western Cape, is the coloured community. And it's at last an opportunity that they can be assisted. And we have, as I've said in our reaction to the Cape Forum situation, and Cape Forum, as Heinrich correctly pointed out, is not only an organization for a specific community, but there's a certain reality in the Western Cape. And I think it's time that the coloured community being the majority, find a strong voice and make themselves known and heard in the Western Cape. And I honestly believe that we are on a very exciting process at the moment where we will achieve what needs to be done. The ANC did have a chance. They messed it up, and I think we should move on without them. I think their time to go home has come.
I couldn't agree more. All right, so Beverly, there's a few things I need to address quickly. Okay, so Beverly's saying, so we're going to be a second Orania. I'll let Phil answer that in a moment, but
let me, Joe, 1 second. I'm also following the comments. I see this Beverly lady's got lots and lots of things to say. I don't think she's aware of anything about Orania. I don't think she knows what she's talking about. And I would really try to ask her to let's get some intelligent comments, please.
Okay, shots fired a bit. But look, I think Beverly, look, you have every right to say that, because she said earlier that she doesn't want South Africa to split, and I know a lot of people that feel that way, that they don't want South Africa to split. But the reality is this: the conversation of independence is not just in the Western Cape; it's also in KwaZulu-Natal, and I believe firmly that if one of those provinces pull away, the other one will, and eventually a whole breakdown of South Africa will happen. There's no doubt in my mind that the idea of independence is an idea that is spreading around South Africa, whether you are for KwaZulu-Natal independence or Western Cape independence or Northern Cape independence. There are factions in those areas that are advocating for that. So eventually it will become a topic that will be unavoidable at some point. But one thing I wanted to quickly say, I have to address this, sorry guys, because it is a super chat, and by YouTube law, I have to always address a super chat. So firstly, Bruce, thank you very much for the £5. I can pay rent at the end of this month. What's €5. What's CIG's strategy for dealing with the DA's delaying tactics on the legislation? Shouldn't they be given some kind of ultimatum, and if so, when? Bruce, I don't know if you heard what Phil said earlier, but tomorrow the CIAG is releasing a press release on the topic, and obviously the march is happening as well as a second to that to also apply pressure. Freedom Front Plus is also going to apply pressure. But Phil, yes, you can respond to that comment briefly.
Yeah, look, so the answer is, look, we're fully engaged with the DA. I can't go into the details, but we are right into this topic. So you absolutely can take as a given that we're not just accepting our fate. And as I say, we don't know yet the details from the DA side. There may be some practical reasons, maybe something to do with programming Parliament. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But no, we absolutely will push. And ultimately, we're fully committed to getting a referendum. And obviously we've tried to do that in the most amenable way possible, and that's how we got there. Obviously, if that becomes a route that's no longer viable, we'll go a different route. But I don't think that's the case. I think the DA are committed to fixing the referendum legislation. I think perhaps their urgency is different from ours, and I think it's critical now that we impress upon them that this is a matter of great urgency to us, and we are busy with that as we speak. So you can take for read that we're right into that process.
Fantastic. All right, gents, we're nearing the end of the hour and a half. So I just want to briefly say thank you so much for joining me. I think this has been a very interesting conversation, especially leading up to the march. I know, Cornet, you said Freedom Front Plus is going to be there. Obviously, Phil Craig, Cape Independence is going to be there. Hendrik, would you be joining in the march?
There are no such plans at the moment. Remember, I said earlier, Joe, that we still have a lot of work to do to prepare for our launch. So that's where the Cape Forum's focus is at the moment. But we are in support of what the purpose of the march is. So greater autonomy, greater powers to communities. If that leads to independence ultimately, fantastic. So I'm wishing Phil and his crew only the best for the march of the 27th.
Look, Heinrich, the 27th is a public holiday. If you're not doing anything, just take an hour, join the party. It's quite a jolt. Like, and it would be great to meet you.
You'll meet me at the Lawns of Cape Forum.
Okay, fair enough. Fine, I'll do that. Touche, my friend, touche. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder that there is a march on the 27th of April. That is Freedom Day. It is a public holiday. Please tell your friends, tell your people. It's a jolt, guys. It really is a party, and I cannot wait to be part of that march. And I cannot wait for the 4th of May either, for Star Wars Day, and of course the launch of Cape Forum. In closing, guys, just let people know where they can find you, where they can keep updated with the things that you're busy with. I have linked your Twitter handles, all of you. Your Twitter handles are in the description of the YouTube video. So if people want to follow you on Twitter, they're more than welcome to. But very briefly, Corne, where can people find you if they want to know more about you and Freedom Front Plus?
Yes, thank you, Joe. Let me end by saying I would like to say thank you very much to the colleagues that participated tonight and to you for making this possible for us to have this kind of discussion. I think we will have more discussions like this in future because the Western Cape is going to be a very, very hot topic and a constructive and a positive one. From the Freedom Front Plus's point of view, we as a political party, people will find us anywhere on Facebook, in WhatsApp groups, on Twitter, Instagram. The party is on all social media, and you're most welcome to make contact with us, specifically in the Western Cape. I'm responsible for the Western Cape, and the party is growing from strength to strength. As a matter of fact, if you look at the current situation in the Western Cape legislature, I'm convinced that there will be a coalition government after the next election, and the Freedom Front Plus will be part of that government, unless we have attained our independence before then. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Heinrich, I know you said earlier that you guys are still launching everything, but where can people find you specifically and maybe read some of the articles that you might have?
So, Joe, you've referred to my Twitter handle is HeinTweets, HEINTWEETS. And then my Facebook page is Heinrich Weingaan. You had my name on the screen throughout this conversation when I was when I had my speaking turns. So I'll be happy to hear, I'll be delighted to hear from your followers and people who've been listening in on the conversation. And then as soon, obviously, as we have the proper contact details for the Cape Forum, we will obviously share that also on social media and get people to join the organization.
Fantastic. And of course, Phil, where can people find all the information about you and Cape Independence Advocacy Group?
So the best, look, we're on Twitter and we're on Facebook, and then our website at www.capeindependence.org. But just one correction, Joe, if I may, just look in terms of the march. It's not just the CIAG march; it's the CIAG, it's the Freedom Front Plus, it's Cape Exit, and it's the Cape Independence Party, and we're jointly hosting this march. So people mustn't think it's just us; it's the four organisations together, and we're working together as we have done many times before, as I'm sure we'll do many times again in the future. So yeah,
absolutely.
But make sure you're there. Make sure you're there.
Absolutely. Sorry. Yes, it's a whole lot of. I mean, no offense. Obviously, Cape Exit and Cape Independence Party, and you guys do great stuff along with everybody else. Are organizing this fantastic march, and I'm a huge fan of it. I'm very, very excited. Anyway, guys. Thank you so much. That pretty much closes off the hour and a half. I want to thank you all once again, so much for joining Phil Craig, Dr. Corne Mulder, and Heinrich. I would definitely love to have Dr. Corne Mulder and Heinrich on another time where it's just me and you chatting for an hour about what you're up to, what you're doing, and obviously we'll make that happen in the near future. I have your email addresses. I will be in contact. But yeah, thank you guys so much. You may have your leave. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys once again.
Joe, thank you for initiating this conversation, and I'll be happy to join you again.
Fantastic. Cheers, Heinrich.
Thank you and good night, everybody.
Cheers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That was that so far closes off the panel night for tonight. I think it was a very interesting discussion, as just I see JC McFarland says so himself. Unfortunately, I wanted to have Brett Herron on the show. I wanted to have a representative of the ANC. I wanted to have some other people on the channel to discuss the march and stuff, but the ANC and Good obviously are cowards and don't want to have an open conversation about Cape independence because they don't want to be embarrassed, especially the ANC, not really Good, but ANC don't want to be embarrassed about their failures and be called out. So, unfortunately, they couldn't be on, but I'm very happy to have had Corne Mulder and Hendrik to join and have this discussion about Cape independence. Ladies and gentlemen, 27th, you can find details in the description on YouTube. All of it's there. The link is there. You can get all the information there. Thank you guys so much. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. If you enjoyed this content, there's more content like this coming up. Tomorrow, I will be discussing with Rob from Dear SA, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, the ANC has been deleting comments. For those of you who do not know, there is at the moment the government has called for comments to the amendment to the Health Act, which seeks to put in lockdown regulations permanently into law and give the health minister unprecedented power. Apparently, I've just got this in while we were on the stream, so this is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. DRSA releasing a statement saying the Department of Health deleting public participation emails. DRSA is aware of the Department of Health is allegedly deleting public participation inputs they received via email without reading them. A government department deleting public inputs without considering their contents is a grievous abuse of public participation process. Fortunately, the DRSA platform exists to mitigate against this. Once DRSA delivers comments to the relevant government department, we count and record all public participation through our platform. Therefore, no comments or inputs can go missing. This allows DRSA to bring a legal challenge against government if they abuse the public participation process. There's more to this, but I'm going to have Rob Hutchinson from DRSA on the show tomorrow to discuss this, to talk about this. There are 4 days left, ladies and gentlemen. A link is in the description. Have your say. Comment. Please let people know about it. But tomorrow, look out on my channel for the full story on what is going on with these deleted comments. It's a very, very big deal, and I think it's almost illegal, but I'll definitely be asking Rob about it tomorrow, so look out for that video on my channel tomorrow and share. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, look, I don't know if she's still around. Bev, I respect your comments about Cape independence. I know you got a bit of comments back in the comment section, but you know what? You have every right to believe in what you want to believe in. I know a lot of people who say the same things that you do, and that is fine. But have an open mind. Just have an open mind. And that's all I will say on that. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to end off now. It's been a very long stream. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Bruce, thank you so much for the euros. It's greatly appreciated. And to everybody else who supports this channel, who subscribed, thank you so much. Patrick seems to believe that Bev is a troll or a fake account. I don't know. Possibly. Yes. And Andy's saying that Cape Exit will be at the march where you can register for independence. I will have Cape Exit, Cape Independence Party, ULA, and I don't know about ULA. Is ULA going to the march? I don't know. But I will be having all the people that organized the march on the show after the march, and we'll be talking about it and letting people know how it went. And of course, I'll be having Cape Forum on the show, and I'll be having Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Cornet on the show. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been great hanging out with you. I hope you enjoyed our discussion, and I will chat to you again soon. Remember, subscribe if you haven't, like, share, all that stuff. And this 1 hour and a half portion of the show will be released in the week on its own. In case, for those that don't want to watch the full 2 and a half hours. So yeah, There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again. I will be back Thursday, load shedding willing, because I think we might have load shedding at the time when I do the show. Hopefully not. But I'll probably confirm that on tomorrow or Thursday. But if I don't see you, on Thursday, have an awesome Easter weekend for those of you that celebrate Easter. For those of you that don't celebrate Easter, have a lovely long weekend. And I will be back next week, Tuesday, sorry. I'll be back next week, Tuesday, if I don't stream on Thursday. Anyway, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.